You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of your favorite show of the week. Live every Tuesday night, right here at 9 p.m. Eastern on all your favorite social medias. Get out there and join us. Like, share, subscribe. We appreciate all the love and support. Our buddy Neil's not with us this week. He's back up there in Boston. Hopefully him and his lovely wife Megan are tuning in this week. He did give you a shout out, so we deserve the love too. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian.
Hey, Mustard Love.
There it is. I was hoping he wouldn't forget. Mr. Mustard
No
Love.
one ever forgets.
No.
No one ever remembers.
No. Remember the Alamo. That's
Eating
right.
pie.
There's no basement at the Alamo.
It's such a great movie. Okay, wow. Keith is wired on something.
I'm wired on life.
I guess that's a good thing.
The life of Riley.
And what? I hope you could explain that. I hope there's no hidden innuendo there.
I don't. It's just an old saying. I don't.
What? That is not an old saying.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, life of Riley.
The life of Riley.
I've never heard
living
this
the
saying
life
in
of
my
Means like a
Riley?
life of leisure and...
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
is it Irish? I guess I don't know.
I think so.
I have
My
never-
I
grandfather
know you
used to
said.
say it
I
all
know
the
you
time.
said your grandfather used to say it all the
Yeah.
time, but I'd heard it outside of that before too.
I've never heard the saying.
He shared the story on the podcast about his grandfather.
I don't
saying
remember
that.
our shows. We've got 421 of them. We got way too much crap that we talk about on this show every week.
Yeah.
Hey, you can catch the audio version on Thursdays, by the way. I don't want to forget about our audio listeners. They're very important to us, too.
We don't have audio listeners.
I'm wearing a hat.
They don't exist.
We have plenty. We got more audio listeners than viewers.
That's true.
Watch
We
our
do.
show too.
We do. But no, I'm wearing a hat because I got to get my hair cut Friday. It's kind of shaggy.
Yeah,
It's
Brandon's
nasty.
being vain again.
Uh,
What else is new?
Hey, I don't have an eye patch on. I had that way back when because, I cut my cornea.
I don't know what that. That's just random out of
See,
nowhere.
you don't remember that episode?
Yeah, no, I remember it, but I just don't know where that gets. I had an eye patch once.
Cut my cornea.
It's like I cut my cornea.
No, it's funny because we're going to
Don't
be
cut your
talking about
cornea.
story time segment later. We've got some login issues Sean is currently dealing with right now. Not anything to do with the podcast.
No.
But we got the Max app that just dropped today. It is now available for new subscribers to HBO Max as well as past subscribers. We're going to talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit in our,
Not
our
all
headlines.
Most
Touche.
99% of them.
But we also have, the review, the big boy on the block, Fast 10. Took number one at the box office. I don't think that's any surprise there. I think it came in at like just over 300 million. It was like 360 million globally. Just crushed this weekend at the box office. Will it do it again this coming week? Because you got Little Mermaid coming out. And before we even go down that road, I'm just gonna let all of
Down
our
the road
listeners
again.
and viewers know
Oh, on the road. My bad. Go
we are
ahead.
not reviewing Little Mermaid. We have not given in to Disney's corporate culture. We are not supporting another daggone live action remake from something that is just going to be a shot
It's
for
not
shot.
gonna be a good movie.
No, it's not. It
It's-
is not. And the people who are touting it, I've heard, here's the one good thing I've heard, which I feel like is just, it's a given at this point. They've all said, oh, Haley's fantastic as Little Mermaid,
Yeah.
as Ariel. She does a
She's
great job.
but the rest of the movie's milquetoast.
Right.
It's like, so then it doesn't matter how good
Yeah,
she is.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm just like, yeah, it's exactly what I was expecting, which is, okay, they got to pander to say
That's the
that
thing.
she's good.
Outside of any whatever politics you want to argue for or against the movie, I just don't think the movie's like, and that's already from early reviews. I don't think it's going to be any good because most of them haven't been.
No.
It's just going to
We've
be.
seen enough of these
the
now to
CGI
know.
is awful. I've
they're-
already seen enough trailers of that terrible
Yep.
crab in Aquafina's scuttle that I'm just. Yeah, I'm just saying they look awful.
I
they
did
sound
not know
awful.
that Aquafina is doing Scuttle.
Yeah. They
Oh my
in the-
gosh.
Have you heard? They actually, there was a clip that released a 6-second version of the album, and it's the part with Aquafina in it. It's god awful.
I'm sure. Well, it's probably
It is
purposely
terrible.
because Scuttle was always terrible singer.
But it's even worse.
So
It's
I could
worse.
see maybe being intentionally really bad, but all of the songs are. They've released. That's how bad the movie is going to be bad because they released a clip of her singing, of the crab singing Under the Sea, and they also released a clip of Ursula's Poor Unfortunate Souls. So I'm like. And the trailer showcases part of your world. So I'm like, so the 3 biggest songs you've already released in videos online.
And they look bad.
And they all sound and look bad.
Yep.
You know the movie's going to be bad because you're desperately trying to get people to see it by releasing the biggest songs and clips on the internet. That's the stuff you want to keep secret until the movie. So when you get to it, people.
No. That's the
Yeah.
stuff they're desperately showing to say,
Whoa,
please,
cool.
please
It was
remember your
bad.
childhood. Come
It was
see
bad.
this. Roping them in. We're not falling for it. We've supported enough of these live action remakes. We've reviewed a handful of them.
And they've
they're
mostly
on
been
our
terrible.
website.
Yeah, they're
Go to
terrible.
redmoonproductions.com and see those reviews. We're never a fan of them. We continue to just be, I'm not going to see Moana. I'm not going to see Lilo and Stitch. It's ridiculous. Stop it. Stop it. Come up with some freaking new
Stop it.
material.
Don't do it.
I just
We're
thought of
done
this,
with
though. The only song they haven't released is the one they changed the lyrics to, and that's Kiss the Girl, because they don't want nobody to know
That's
that song
true.
until you get to the theater.
You really have to scrounge around on the internet to find the changes there, and they're hoping, people will just go in unnoticed.
Well, they announced they changed it, but they just haven't released any clip of it
They know
yet,
it's not
so-
viral, though. They know
Yeah.
most people are
Yeah.
going in unnoticed.
Melissa McCarthy. Shut up.
Yeah, of all the people.
I'm just like,
But you know what? Was Fast 10 more entertaining? Well, we'll never know, truthfully, because we're not going to go see Little Mermaid. We're not supporting it. But I can almost assure you it was more entertaining.
The worst Fast and Furious movie is more entertaining than most of Disney's live. I mean,
Yeah,
whether
that's
you,
true.
I mean, there are bad Fast and the Furious movies, but I'd argue they've all been entertaining at the least.
True.
So
You never know when they're going to shoot you into space. It's fantastic.
that was awful.
All righty, guys.
Well,
So,
we got.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Oh man,
I know. Well, and unfortunately, too, I think, Sean, you're going to be on vacation next week.
Yeah.
So you won't be here. Another reason
go
we
see it in
just,
Florida with
you know,
Dennis.
No, I got better things to do. in Florida.
That's fair. I mean, no, that's a good point. Like
He may see.
who goes to Florida to watch Fast and the Furious?
He may see a mermaid in Florida.
If I
You
get a
never know.
video
See
of one,
Ursula.
it'll be better than Disney.
See Melissa McCarthy rising up out of the water. Like, you know, that when Ursula turns gigantic and everything, he's just going to be in Florida on some this giant fat just comes out of the water. And
Right, Ed.
King Triton comes out and it's like, is that Ron
Javier
DeSantis?
Bardem.
Oh my gosh, he's king of the sea.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Ron DeSantis.
That's just
It's my kingdom now.
God.
Alrighty, guys, let's get on to the review. Here is our review of none other.
we have 2 though, don't we? Didn't we get a guest review?
Oh, we did. He's returned because
I just say we always there's one celebrity
That's
who
true.
always graces us with a fantastic review of these movies.
I'm
And-
very, very surprised because it's hard for us to get any celebrity on this show.
Now I
we
still have my
Neil.
review. My review's right after, right?
Right. It follows
Okay,
right
okay,
into
okay.
it. But we always have Neil. We have Jacob. Those are our local celebrities.
Yeah.
But Tyrese Gibson,
He's so great.
he always
He's so
shows up
generous.
to review these movies for us, and it's fantastic.
I'll be honest, like at this point, like if without Tyrese Gibson, you can't make Fast and the Furious.
No, you can't. Not at this point. Alrighty, guys, here is our review. Then none other than Fast 10.
Vroom vroom, bitches! That's right, I'm back, baby, with an all-new feature movie. It's the beginning of the end, and shit's getting real. This time around, the stakes are big. They're bigger than even my forehead, so I'm demanding respect. That's right, it's all about Roman in this movie. Don't worry, Dom's still around. We still have all the explosions, fast cars, and fast bitches. And we keep referencing Brian, even though he ain't ever show up no more now that Paul is dead. But he's family, and that's what this movie is still all about. We got some surprises, and everyone is related to everyone. But don't worry, we honoring all the Fast franchise films and shoehorning every character we can think of up into this bitch. And we promise not to shoot anyone into space this time around. If you a fan, come check us out. Sure, we drug the shit out longer than necessary, but we've gotten this ridiculous already, so why not go out with a bang? I give Fast X out of X. That's right, Fast 10 out of 10. You heard it here first. Tyrese Gibson. It's the beginning of the end because after already being 9 movies in, Vin Diesel still can't help but stretch out the conclusion as long as possible. With hints of what was supposed to be a 2-film ending possibly turning into even a trilogy, Vin Diesel has promised a show-stopping finale that honors every aspect of the entire franchise. And so far, he may deliver on that promise, though we still have to get through this film first, before finally reaching the end of what still feels like a never-ending series. I'm speaking, of course, of Fast and the Furious, or more specifically, Fast X. Directed this time around by Louis Leterrier, picking up the reins from Justin Lin, who after helming the 3rd through 6th installments, including some of the most popular films in the series, returned for the lackluster 9th film. Lin now stays on as executive producer, and instead we get Leterrier, whose resume includes everything from standard action fare such as Transporter 2 and The Incredible Hulk, to the horrendous Brothers Grimsby, and the exceptionally phenomenal and mind-blowingly well-made The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. Meaning that basically going in, I had no idea what to expect, but expected to at least be entertained with over-the-top bombastic action set pieces, which at this point is all anyone expects for the Fast and the Furious franchise. Simply put, from the moment he was announced, I thought that Leterrier was a safe choice to guide the franchise to its end. And after seeing Fast X, I was correct in this assumption. Fast X, first and foremost, is a high-octane, NOS-infused adrenaline ride. It delivers everything we expect from the series at this point. Ridiculous stunts? Check. Massive explosions? Sure. Hand-to-hand fist fights? You got it. A story that revolves around family? Absolutely. And even Vin Diesel's promise to honor every film in the franchise holds up, with nods and references to past films and every new character introduced connected to past stories or characters in some way. It's clear the entire plot and structure of this film is meant to honor and tie off every character arc in some way. This is also, sadly, the film's biggest problem. Sure, some would say the physics-defying set pieces and completely impossible car stunts are a problem, but at this point it's hard to knock a franchise that's built itself on those very ideas. If anything, I can say the movie actually does dial back a little bit of the insanity. Sure, the stunts are still unbelievably stupid and unrealistic, but at least they feel more within the realm of probability set by the franchise than blasting 2 characters into space in a car. Yeah, we all remember that happening. Where Fast X truly struggles most is its pacing and story structure. While a bit cliche and generic, I can say that the overall plot is relatively clever by the Fast and Furious franchise standard. Going back to the well of introducing characters with connections to past characters and plots, Fast X ties its story to that of Fast 5. Arguably one of the most popular films in the series, and the one that brought the franchise back from the brink of extinction. While a bit convoluted, it works, and helps to make the stakes feel believable rather than arbitrary. And is at least handled better than the introduction of John Cena as Dom's brother Jacob, who no one ever spoke about or heard of before the last movie. Sadly though, with having to tie the main villain and this story's plot to the past while also attempting to juggle every character and plot point introduced in the series, Fast X is very fast-paced and tends to jump all over the place from scene to scene. The action is dumb fun, and the humor is too, but this film lacks the emotional punch that drew fans to the first 2 films and brought them back to the 5th, 6th, and 7th installments. There are some attempts and one truly decent somber moment in the film, but nothing is allowed to breathe. The film simply doesn't stand on its own, and all the emotional connection to the characters come from the other films. This is fine, being the 10th movie in the series. We don't have to go over every character's history at this point. But being the ending narrative, subtle moments should also be given some time to breathe, so audiences have a chance to reflect on how much the characters mean to them. So when they are put in danger, we can halfway believe they may die or fail. As is, though, we aren't given time to feel their emotional burdens, and with the franchise constantly bringing characters back from the dead, it's hard to feel there's a real threat, despite the fact that the film does do a decent job of building Jason Momoa's villain as the ultimate threat they've come to face. Ultimately, the movie suffers from being the beginning of the end to a franchise that has gotten too long in the tooth. It does its best to tie all its loose threads together to set up the final movie, while also making the stakes the highest they've ever been. it's not always successful. But as a setup to the actual finale, it's entertaining and does get everything in place for a final showdown. While introducing some fresh aspects such as Momoa's over-the-top villain, who thematically acts as a fantastic foil to Vin Diesel's Dom, and after a string of lead villains that are either just stereotypical thugs or the devoid of any personality Charlize Theron, Momoa does come across as refreshing despite being, like everything else in the franchise, completely ridiculous. Fast X is not all I hoped it would be. As stated, it just simply doesn't stand on its own, but is one I can say is a solid building block to start the series in. It's a lot of fun and a lot of stupid. Not everything works and the film stays high speed from start to finish, which isn't always a good thing. But if they can stick the landing in the final film, this will prove to have been a fun and necessary piece of the puzzle. If they botch the end, then this will just be another unneeded sequel, much like fans felt 8 and 9 were. Only time will tell, but I found myself enjoying Fast X more than I have the last few films, so I'm willing to see the franchise through to its end. I give Fast X 2.5 out of 4 stars.
2.5 stars.
I liked it.
Out of 4.
It had its problems.
Not X out of X.
Not X out of X.
But thank you, Tyrese, for stopping by
I don't
and
know.
recording that. We really
he knows
appreciate
we
it.
do a 4-star rating. He was being a jerk.
No, he's not being a look.
He's being a bitch.
He's done it. He's done
Sorry,
enough.
I had to.
No, he's done enough reviews for us that I
He has.
I
That's
think
fair.
Tyrese.
He was excited. He was excited to promote this movie.
He got a little out of hand. I think Tyrese deserved it
It's
to
the
give it his
beginning of
score.
the end, you know. Vin Diesel's even tried to be like, well, I don't know, we could turn it into a trilogy. He's like, no, we don't need to go that far.
Not
Just let
after seeing this.
Let it in. I liked it. It definitely has its problems. I think, like I said in the review, it's a good building block to the, like, basically the whole point of this movie is to create the scenario for this final showdown, and that's fine. Like, I like the way they tied things together from previous plot points and characters. At this point in the Fast and Furious franchise, having people related to people that you didn't know existed is just a staple because everybody is now related to everybody.
What's family?
Yeah,
It's all about family.
So Jason Momoa, they reveal as, you know, it ties to the villain in the 5th one, and that's how they kind of set this one up, and I like that. I don't want to get into any other major spoilers because there's definitely, you know, they try to pull some of those kind of like, what's going to happen? Like, you know, it does end like kind of spoiler alert with the cliffhanger. I'm not going to go over more than that, but they have these where certain characters are like, are they dead? And it's like, it's Fast and the Furious.
Is anybody ever
It's
dead?
like you've brought everyone you've killed back to life. So at this point, I don't believe anybody's dead. Because, I mean, literally every character they've killed off comes back in a later movie. So I'm just like, eh.
The tensions are not there
Except for Paul, because
in that
he
regard.
can't.
Well,
But
here's the thing. It's a glaring issue that they keep bringing him up, and everybody else returns
Or
but
creating
him.
plot scenarios where he would obviously be that. There's a point in this movie, Dom's son, little Brian, is being watched by his aunt, Mia, who is Jordana Brewster's character, who is married to Brian, Paul Walker, and she's supposed to be watching him and keeping him safe, and of course the bad guys come to get him, and I'm sitting here thinking, this is a moment where Brian would absolutely be there. Like, why would he not be with his wife guarding his nephew and his wife?
Yep.
Like, it makes no sense for him not to be there, and they never... I have a feeling they might try to put, because both of his brothers have said they'd love to come back and do the deep fake stuff and give him a send-off, and I have a feeling they might do that for the final one. I don't think it'll be like the whole movie, but I do think there'll be maybe a key scene or something where they'll bring him back for one last, like, ugh. But I don't, yeah. Well, because that's...
Tyrese.
Oh, man. He wants respect.
No, I agree. I think Paul Walker will make a return in the final film. If the next one is the final film.
It's just ridiculous
Right.
that they keep making scenes where it's like, okay, we know he should be here, and we know he can't because the actor's gone, but at least be more creative in the writing to explain why he's not here. Because when
100%.
Because at this point, like, when his entire family is now like in the worst danger they've ever been in, you don't think he'd be like, well, I'm gonna step up to the plate and make sure that they're safe. Like, it just makes no sense to be like, no, I'm retired now. I know y'all like are all about to die, but I'm retired.
Well, again, this is the same problem we've had with Marvel films.
Yeah.
It's like they get to the certain grandiose battles where you're kind of like, okay, you're not saying this is an Avengers movie, but they would definitely show up for this event. And it feels the same way with this.
Yeah.
It's like you've gotten to the I mean, they do openly mock it in this movie, kind of like Tyrese did in the last film about being invincible.
Yeah.
They mock in this one. They're like,
It was really well done, though.
If they defied gravity or what was the line? I forget the line exactly.
He goes, if you can. He said they started out as petty thieves. If you could do it in a car, they've done it. If you can defy the laws of physics and gravity, they've done it twice. And I was like, okay,
that was perfect.
That was brilliant. Yeah,
that was a good, and even the scene
that
set up
actor
there
was actually a pretty good addition. I forget his name. It's the guy that plays Jack Reacher. He's in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
I don't know his name.
He's decent. I do think there's certain plot points surrounding him that were kind of unnecessary. But,
well, and even
but
the
his
makeup
acting's good.
of that whole scene and where they're at. It's kind of like, again, just like even with the God's Eye tool when it was introduced a few movies back, they're getting to this espionage level where, I mean, there's also a scene where you have Charlize Theron and Michelle Rodriguez fighting each other, and there's like this weird surgery tool that she manipulates, and then it just comes at them like a
something
laser.
from a Marvel movie. Like literally, like this tool has like this laser that stitched Michelle Rodriguez's like
and again,
wound back together.
They were in space last time.
Yeah, it's like I understand. Like they have this whole like
because they went to space.
Yeah,
well, now they got lightsabers.
Right.
With Kurt Russell's organization that they just called the Agency. That's all it's called. Like the Kurt Russell organization that was introduced in 7. Like so, I understand like the agency's like the secret government organization that has higher technology and whatnot. But I'm like, it gets to an extent where it's like, yeah, I told you in the car ride on the way home. You watch the first movie and they're stealing TiVos out of the back of semis, and then in the 9th one and this one you got like lasers and they're getting shot into space, and I'm like, we've gotten like I understand like upping the action, but we've come a long way from stealing TiVos out of the back of semis.
Yeah, it used to just be about stealing. Now it's all this like you said, espionage and secret agencies and all
they've
this
become
international
superheroes
stuff.
with cars.
Like,
yeah, they are. They're now superheroes with cars, and what they do with they defy the laws of physics and gravity. So,
but I think it's funny too because I mean there are aspects and spectacles in this film where I'm like, clearly they've just made Mission Impossible, but instead of Tom Cruise running around, they're just in a car.
Yeah.
So they're pulling off stunts that normally you would see someone do on foot in a movie. And even though it's unrealistic, it's like, oh, they're agile enough. It's like you can you can do some parkour on foot.
Wow.
You can't do parkour
if you're a good
in a
enough,
car.
if you're a good enough driver, you can get across
here's the thing.
all of Rome in a car.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
on the roof.
And you can,
on the roofs.
And you can smack a crane and have it knock a
Well,
huge gigantic bomb.
I didn't want to give too much. I want Sean to be,
I want to spoil
probably
it.
see it. I'm just saying. I probably
There's
you gotta see it
enough
before the last one at least.
Maybe if I ever get my HBO Max set up, I'll watch it on HBO when it comes
true.
out.
Well, it's a Universal film, so it'd be
I
on
thought
Peacock.
they were all on HBO.
Because Universal license out. They have been, but I don't know.
Ultimately, though, you hit the nail on the head in the review about it being spastic, and not only just the story sense of where we've come, and in trying to wrap all these characters up because there are so many at this point, but also it's become spastic even in the editing. Like there's such pacing issues because you're literally jumping from one scene to the next, and this was kind of my issue with Guardians as well. There were deliberate cuts in moments where we had to just end the action to jump to a scene to make sense that when everything kind of met up, at some point it all was cohesive and made sense. And to me, that's poor writing, but also poor planning.
There's too much narrative they're trying to shove into this 2.5 hour window. Because I agree, Guardians had some similar problems, and with this, like, because here's what I honestly, if it was the plan from the get go to do a final trilogy, I don't think I would have minded that seeing this movie now if they had allowed this to breathe a little bit more because there was so much crammed into it. But the way it is now and the way they've set everything up for a final showdown, I feel like you don't really – everything's set up now. We don't need a third movie to drag it out now. It's like everything's already set up. So just let it play out.
But is there any hope that the last one's going to be slowed down at all?
I would hope so. I would hope this one is so because this really does. It takes pretty much every character that's been a major player in the franchise and all these plot threads of how they've been connected to all these different villains, and it kind of puts them in the scenario of, okay, now everybody is now together to be teamed up against this one force, and going into the next movie, that's how it's going to be. Even though they're kind of still separated at the end of this one, you can already tell they've put the setup for them all to come back together because they do kind of split them all off into groups in this. So that, like, you know, all these characters from all the movies can now, like, join up to take out Jason Momoa, who I will admit, like
It's the Avengers.
yeah,
Yeah, it is.
and it is. I will say this: I thought Jason Momoa was an excellent foil to the character of Dom. If nothing else, like most of the villains in the Fast and the Furious franchise have been your stereotypical like mafioso bosses or thugs, and they're not. They're pretty much all the same until you get
Or
to
his brother or something.
Until you get
Yeah.
to Jason
that he's
Statham.
he's not mentioned throughout any
Yeah,
of the
right.
films.
Exactly.
Jason Statham is the first one with any personality, and of course he was Owen Shaw's brother that we didn't know about, and he was the first villain that was actually so good they kept him around and even did a spinoff with Hobbs and Shaw because they're like, oh, Jason Statham has charisma, he has personality, and then the very next time they bring in Charlize Theron, who's wood. She's just in all of them. Like she has no personality. She has no character, and I can't. I'm just like all she is
Tough woman.
I'm a tough woman. I'm gonna smack this. I loved the fact
She'll
that.
F you up.
But I love that in this movie that they
According
did
to
show
her
because
tweets.
Jason Momoa is supposed to be the final villain, this big badass. I am glad that even like they didn't do this thing where we can't belittle her because she's the badass woman, so she's got to be somehow better than him. I like that they still showed he was better than her because he is if he's going to be the final villain, the final boss, and he can't take out these other people, it's like then why does he deserve to be the final boss? So I'm glad that they didn't put her up against him and make it seem like, oh yeah, she could take him out. It's just for some reason this time she couldn't. Like I'm glad they didn't try to cop out that way. But he is very flamboyant, very loud and over the top, which works for the movies. Vin Diesel's character of Dom is, he's more of the stereotypical macho, quiet, few words, like, family. And then he has the cross. He's very religious.
Right.
Jason Momoa is very much anti, like, religion. Like, he talks about, I died for 2 years and didn't see nothing. And they make it a very big point that he is against that, but then Dom is very much like, you gotta have faith, and yeah. And
They do.
and it's ridiculous and dumb. As corny as it is, because it is corny. I did appreciate that they didn't shy away from those themes. It's like okay, no, they're actually like showing that like. They're not trying to be like, well, even though this has been a part of his character, because while it's been a part of his character, it's never been a focus until now. So it was kind of interesting to see them do that.
Still he's a faithful criminal.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they pray.
He's
I was
the
saying
most they've done in the movies.
They've turned from that criminal past.
From the
Still
first
does a lot of
movie,
bad stuff.
from the first movie all the way through, though, when they sit down for that meal, they do always show them praying. So I'll give them that.
That's right.
It's like, wait, don't kill that guy yet. Let's pray.
Let's pray about it.
first.
Pray.
He's
It's
a
like-
bad guy.
it's
Let's
like,
get him.
We just jacked $500,000 worth of TiVos. Let's pray.
Let's pray. Let's pray
God,
they
thank you
work,
for this
'cause
bounty.
TiVo don't work no more.
They did back when the first movie came out.
I really did. I thought it was decent. It was, again, if
I had a lot
anything,
of fun. I'll
it
say
was
that.
It was entertaining. It was a fun popcorn flick. No shortage of any kind of action. If you were definitely expecting there were a couple of moments that were slower that hit the mood right. It was literally one moment, and even it wasn't long enough, and it was sandwiched in between 2 high octane scenes that kind of killed it for me. And I wanted to see more of that. Who knows? Maybe we'll get that in the last film.
Maybe instead of 2 more movies, since it's supposed to only be 1, and hopefully Vin Diesel doesn't convince them to go for another. But if this is the last movie, what if like they go along with it and do like a 3-hour finale?
Oh my gosh.
No, I honestly,
I don't see them doing that because
I turned to you and I said afterward, I said if they do 2 more hours of action with all of them together, and they end it with a 20-minute send-off, and it's like a final closing, that would be fine.
good. Yeah,
that'd be good. Even if it's a cheesy montage and Brian's thrown back in there.
I'm hoping because you could tell by the way they set it up that they're bringing them all together again, that they have enough, like that they're not going to need to jump around the story so much that they can slow down some scenes so that you can give some final send-off. Because there are some things they're going to have to address. They still have, like to address what's going on with Hobbs and Shaw, what's going on with Shaw and Han, and then of course there's kind of a surprise at the end of this movie that relates to Han that they're going to have to give an emotional wrap up to, and then of course everybody's still going to expect something regarding Brian, and then of course Dom needs to send off because he's been pretty much the lead for most of the series.
Right.
So it's like there is definitely a lot that they're still going to have to juggle.
Well, and also I have to admit too, I think I'm curious to see, because we see Momoa's character throughout this film really kind of being the toying and playful, and I actually like that they overplayed it to the point where you're like, oh, okay, he changes on a dime though when he gets to the end, and he's like, all right, now I mean business. Yeah. And so now it's like
I've
okay,
tortured you enough. Now it's time to kill you.
Yeah. And so I think you're getting a different motivation in the second movie. That's going to be an all-out war between him and his faction versus these guys.
Because in this one, he wanted to make them suffer first. He's like, what is
That's what he says.
What his father from the fifth one had to say, like, never accept death when suffering's due, or something to that effect. And I mean, it's a corny line, but it actually for Fast and the Furious is actually decent.
Yeah. But no, there it is. Our official review: 2.5 out of 4 stars for Fast X/10, or 10 out of 10.
It's X out of X.
Gibson.
You throw
X
one more
out of
X in there, and you've got the next Maxine movie.
Maxine. Well, that's down the road.
I'm ready for that one.
Alrighty, guys, let's move into our headlines. Man, there is something in his coffee.
That coffee's
tonight.
good. I like coffee.
There is something in his coffee.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Alrighty, guys, let's bring up our headline. Our first one for the night. We are talking about, well, the WGA just struck.
WGA.
And
What?
now SAG, Screen Actors Guild, they're talking about it. They're bringing it up. They got a meeting on June 7th, and they said they're packing all the punches.
I like what they say, though, because it's funny, because the WGA actually said the exact same thing. That's like, we're voting to authorize a strike. That doesn't mean we're actually going to go on strike. It just gives us more leverage. And, I mean, that's, yeah, of course, like, that's... Every time you vote for a strike isn't necessarily that you have to use it, but once you've authorized it and you don't get what you want, it's pretty much where you're going to go, just like the WGA did. So it'll be interesting. It depends. I know I pull up the article here on who they had interviewed because I remember them.
Fran Dresser.
Okay, yeah, because she said
she's the president.
specifically was talking about how she's more hopeful than the negotiations for the WGA. Let's see. Yeah, we must get all our ducks in a row should the need present itself. The prospect of a strike is not a first option, but a last resort. As my dad always says, better to have and not need than to need and not have. And I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's very, let's see. So she was talking about what they want is a little bit different. Now, there are similarities, but she said it is a little bit different. She said, I don't think what's very important to writers, and I'm a writer too in the WGA, is the kind of stuff that we're going after. Although I am very empathetic for their needs to be honored, I feel like our conversation is going to be very different, and I feel very hopeful that maybe we won't get to this point. And I know last time they said some of it was, I know in the 2017 one, they...
Negotiations.
The two sides reached a deal. I was trying to see what they were arguing over last time. That wasn't too big a deal, but this time they have said that's even though Fran Drescher just said that it's not all the same. They have said that streaming royalties or residuals is part of it, which is what the WGA is fighting for, and also AI, which I do find interesting because, if you can, we've already seen with deepfake technology, and now AI can just generate, your image. It's like we had and I think they've backpedaled since then, but when we had announced that one company was going to make a movie with James Dean's likeness, and then fans were outraged. It's like, what do you do with AI now that Tom Hanks in the interview, he said, he's done motion capture work before, so they definitely have all his stuff already in a file somewhere.
Well, he kind of praised it. He said, I can live on forever.
Yeah, he actually was
using
okay
him.
with it. Others aren't, but he was like, I could be in, long after I'm gone, you might see me in a movie. And I get the fear of that because, one, do you no longer need actors? And two, do you get paid will his family in the future, like the Tolkien estate, still gets paid for people using Tolkien's work? If you use Tom Hanks' likeness, does Tom Hanks, if he's still alive, or his estate if he's gone, get any residuals for using AI? I could see because you're using his likeness, they deserve some type of compensation.
No, true, and I would think that is the case. Again, I don't know if that's written in their contracts or not, or even if that's been prior, that's been in prior contracts. I know the negotiations are not only starting in the beginning of June, but they've got to be wrapped up by June 30th.
Yeah, they don't have long.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting that, I mean, to me, I think this is kind of just piggybacking off the heels of the WGA.
I thought that too. They're like, they already know they're on strike, so now if they threaten to go on strike, they've got even more leverage to be like, you won't lose your writers and your actors.
And ultimately, let's think about this. I mean, whether they obviously no actor would admit
they don't
this.
get paid enough. That inflation was one of the things I think they said about the last time, and I'm like, actors worry about inflation.
Well, here's the thing. No, wait a second.
Some of them,
You're
yes.
talking about your A-list actors.
Yeah.
Now, how many are out there?
Now, there's true.
Yeah.
That's true. There
That's a
are
good
plenty
point,
of minor, of just background people that don't get paid dirt. So.
Right. I mean, but even still, it's like there's I think 180,000 pay or that members in the SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah.
And it's like, ultimately, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I don't think that they have as much to lose nor gain. And to me, it feels
Animation was another one they were fighting for last time, like the voice actors to get paid.
2017.
Yeah.
But
so.
I do think that, if anything, they're kind of making incremental steps towards whatever deal it is that they're trying to strike up. But ultimately, too, they're kind of just... People know that actors are going to more than likely get what they want because they're the ones in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I'm calling a spade here and just saying, look, writers, you're getting, some of them below the line work, and you're not getting paid what you need to, and you're getting scrappy beginnings as far as like trying to get your comeuppance and get your name heard.
Writers
but
aren't
ultimately,
really who put butts in. So yes, you have if without good writing, your movie's garbage. But when you market a movie, most people aren't like so and so wrote that, unless it's a big name that's also a director like Tarantino. Most people aren't like, oh yeah, I love that guy. He wrote that one movie. I'm gonna go see this movie. Like most people don't know writers.
No, I don't. You seem to know them pretty well though. You mention them all the time. Like, oh, that was written by someone. I'm like,
I do like to know who writes certain things.
Well, and that's different too for those who follow the industry and even keep up with it. But it's like for your normal average moviegoer, they're gonna far more, understand and see somebody they recognize on screen in front of them than they're going to read the credits. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I feel like the actors, especially too, when it comes down to it, while there are plenty of actors out there who want to take on the gig, just like there would be even writers, any actor is going to take a chance at getting in front of a starring role. And you obviously need, doesn't matter if they're A-listers or background characters, you need those roles fulfilled before you shoot anything.
Yeah.
Let alone, and granted, you got to look at it this way too. They may not have as much pull in the sense that if there is nothing being written and the writers are on strike, and if they truly are standing in solidarity for one, but also in the fact that there's not going to be many projects that are actually put out there. ABC, their entire fall slate has been pushed back, and they're doing just reality shows.
But there are some stuff that is still filming that already have scripts done, and I can imagine, like House of the Dragon. They already have all their scripts. They said they've reviewed them and done multiple drafts, and they feel confident they're perfectly 100% good to go. So then what happens if their actors go on strike? They can't continue filming. So,
no, absolutely. I ultimately don't think this is kind of anything. I think it's sparking the conversation simply because obviously it's coming up in the news while the writer strike is still continuing and they're still fighting for their rights. But then you also have the Actors Guild having negotiations coming up, and they're like, well, we just want to have it in our back pocket just in case.
It does give them some great leverage with the writer strike going on too, unless, like you said, it's to a point now where the production companies are just like, well, everything's already postponed, so it don't matter. So
right.
It's interesting to me that I do think they're trying to gain that leverage to get more stuff. Where it goes, I personally just at this point I'm so tired of Hollywood and how two-faced so many people in Hollywood are. I'm kind of just enjoying the chaos. Like, go ahead. It's like, go ahead and create chaos for yourselves. Like, it don't hurt. I don't care if I have to wait a few more months for show. I know other people do, but I'm like, I have such a back catalog of what to stream anyways.
That's how I am.
I'm just like,
maybe it'll give them more time to actually write something good.
It's like let Hollywood burn for a little bit. And maybe they'll learn a lesson. They probably won't, but
of course not. Well, they'll get what they can, and then after a while they'll push to the extreme of that.
I did see something online that I thought brought up, and this actually connects to our other two headlines as well. As far as like Disney goes, because we've talked about how Disney is taking certain projects off of Disney Plus. I'm kind of following in HBO Max's footsteps there. And someone had mentioned like that's actually kind of interesting amongst the strike, because one of the things writers are striking for is streaming residuals. And one of the reasons Disney says they're taking these things off is because they don't want to have to continue paying residuals. So it's like, is this kind of also a warning to these people on strike saying, well, you could fight for this, but if we don't want to pay it, we'll just take you off our platform and then we don't have to pay the residuals anyway. And it's like, it could be a little bit of that saying,
no, it could be
like, hey, you want more writing residuals, but if nobody's watching your show on our platform, we don't want to pay them, so we're just going to take it off.
And honestly, that could be a fair argument for taking those and stripping them off streaming services, and ultimately would be, I think, again, turnabout's fair play. I think at that point, if you're arguing,
well, if you wrote garbage and nobody's watching it, it's like, okay,
yeah.
At that point, it's like, yeah, write better stuff.
Yep. Well, and they're thinking from the terms of we've already produced this and we've already spent all this time and money and effort on it. And if it's not succeeding, then why are we going to keep it on there to keep paying for
almost
people to
everything
see it?
they listed was stuff they released like that came out during COVID that was new. Like it wasn't any of their older back catalog of stuff. It was all newer things that nobody watched. So,
and honestly, I think that's a very fair point because what you're seeing now is in principle, I'm against any form of censorship. I'm against them pulling things that were already originally created for the platform it's streaming on to begin with. But if it strictly comes down,
originals.
Right, and if it strictly comes down to them pulling that content because they have a rights issue, whether it's the writing credentials or music that's being used, I mean, this is one of those situations where I'm like, this could be affecting the consumer as much as it is the people who are saying, no, this is what we want to cover in our new contracts. It's like, okay, it's going to affect you both the same because we're the ones that are ultimately putting the platform up and as far as the operating costs go, and we don't have to pay you a damn thing if we don't want to have it on there. And so I could see them easily pulling that argument. My problem with that is then you're potentially going to get certain things that are put on there become a cult classic or a hit, and then you could have this leveraging issue making its way into something that is popular. And there it's like, well, we're just making a business sense. We're strictly sticking with the business aspect of it. But, from the producer side of things, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. We'll continue to follow it throughout the coming month.
When you make things harder to get, people just turn to piracy.
That's true.
I mean, that's true. For throughout history. I mean, look at the actual legitimate piracy on the seas, the Wild West, bootlegging. It's like you make alcohol illegal. Well, we're just going to make our own. It's like,
where there's a will, there's a way.
When you tell people they can't have something they want, they will find a way to get it. So
take the guns away, people are going to still get guns.
Well, we still have them. Can't take them away. That's right.
I'm just saying.
Take them with my cold dead hands. All right, let's move on to the second headline, which you brought up Disney, and we were just talking about Disney.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. It kind of connects to our other headlines as well. Yeah.
This change that it had recently about not investing $1 billion in Florida.
Don't make the change. They don't have the money to invest.
That's exactly.
They're going to act like it's a moral high ground. Like, oh, we're not going to do this because Florida's being mean to us.
That's the media spin on it. The media spin immediately out of the gate was, oh, they're not supporting this because of what Ron DeSantis did with the, in backlash against getting rid of the Reedy Creek district in Florida. However, if you look at Disney's portfolio and their share price, their stock price over the last year and a half, and the 4 million lost subscribers from just the beginning of the year, you can already tell that, Disney's been bleeding some money and having some problems recently.
And there's a couple of reasons like why it's money related. One, if it was specifically just in spite of Florida, they would pick somewhere else to build it if they thought it was that necessary. They're not.
Well, technically, it's a relocation.
Yes. Well,
so it's already in California and L.A. So they were relocating to Florida.
Yeah, no, I was getting there. I just hadn't. That's why, because it's their Imagineers who work with the movies to create rides for the studios. And Bob Chapek's idea was we're going to move them to Florida and work with, was it Disney? Is Disney World's in Florida, Disneyland's in California?
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. Yeah, I think that's right.
And like Bob Iger said, when he came back, he's like, that's stupid because they have to work with the movie studios to come up with the ideas to make the rides that are implemented at Disneyland first and then go to Disney World because they're working with the movie studios, which are in California. How do they work with the movie studios if they're in Florida? And I mean, that's part of the reason he said they're not doing it, which I agree that logically makes some sense. But I also feel like, why are they going to? They don't have the $1 billion, $2 billion to just blow anyways on something that is already kind of nonsensical.
Right. No, exactly. Well, and this was also previously talked about from Iger back in the fall.
Yeah.
When he came back after Chapek's, firing in the middle of the night on a Sunday, and he came in and this was one of the first things on the chopping block. He just said, "No, I don't think we are going to do this. More on this later," and pushed it down, pushed the cart down
and
the
apparently
road.
A lot of the employees didn't want to have to move to Florida either because the Imagineers would have had to relocate. And whether that's just they didn't want to move or because of political purposes, because I'm sure a lot of the people living in California probably do detest Florida.
Yeah,
so.
but even then, it's like you're moving to. I mean, Orlando's not a red district by by virtue. It's blue. It's one of the bluer parts of the state. I mean, all of Miami-Dade, it's the same way.
But Florida's evil, Brandon.
Well, but that's what their overarching message is in general from the media.
But those blue districts voted for Ron DeSantis, and he's the one making these changes.
That's true.
I mean, Miami-Dade overwhelmingly voted for DeSantis.
It's true. And it's funny because you're seeing that they don't want to go there, but also it's not even that I think they would have the problem with it as much as it is just, okay, because you'd be bringing not only all these jobs there, but they would be flourishing more because they're not in somewhere where they're suffocating under huge tax, the huge amount of taxes they've got to pay
not
in
just
California.
The tax, but the crime.
The crime rate?
Yeah,
I know.
Just like...
But it's like, I just think it's funny because everybody trying to spin it, it's like, no, Disney doesn't have the money. Yeah. They're hurting right now. Why would they be doing these projects in general? We just saw them go through a massive round of layoffs. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that they just decided to cut $1 billion deal because we're not investing in Florida.
We fired a bunch of people because we couldn't pay them. We're pulling things off of our Disney Plus because we don't want to pay residuals, but we don't want to spend $1 billion in Florida because we just don't like Florida. Yeah, that don't make sense. And it is because he did take a jab at Florida in the earnings call. That
he did.
I can read it. He is like, we have a huge opportunity to continue to invest in Florida. I noted that our plans were to invest $17 billion over the next 10 years, which is what the state should want us to do. We operate responsibly. We pay our fair share of taxes. We employ thousands of people there. Does the state want us to invest more? Employ more people and pay more taxes or not? And it's like, obviously, yeah, but when you have morals, some things are more important. So,
well, exactly. No, and that's the one thing that
he's trying to make it sound like DeSantis is depriving the state of much needed money and
let's face
employment.
You're right. All that is grandstanding because it's Iger's little jab, the only little jab he has at the state of Florida, and it's like
to act like they're not going to invest money that they don't have.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to scare Ron DeSantis in backing off of what he was elected to do.
Yeah.
The problem is Disney does not run the state of Florida, and that's exactly why Ron DeSantis came in and did what he did with the company. You can get mad at him all he wants.
Much longer either.
No, they don't.
Not anymore. Yeah,
they don't. They don't have those rights. That's what he stripped them of.
Yeah,
and so that was what started all of this hubbub. And it's like, you're not going to scare him into backing off his positions. Again, he's been emboldened by the voters. He has a mandate while there to do what's best for the state of Florida. And what's best for the state of Florida is not to cram down gender transition ideology on their patrons at Disney or anybody else in the state of Florida. And that's strictly what Ron DeSantis said. Is Disney didn't even have to dip their toe in that water. They stepped in it. Yeah. And they're the ones who got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they didn't have to get involved politically, and they did, and now the ramifications are unfolding.
Well, it's funny because they announced a long time ago that they were implementing all these cost-cutting measures. You know,
they just shut down the big Star Wars thing.
Yeah,
they spent billions of dollars on that.
Open a year.
Yeah, and I guarantee you they lost tons of money on that because it was over. Like you couldn't afford to stay there.
$5,000 for 2 nights.
Yes, it's like it was ridiculous. Nobody could afford to stay there except for the rich, basically. And nobody, I guarantee you they didn't have enough people stay there to justify the cost of maintaining this whole, because I've seen like the virtual stuff and it was really cool. You go inside the building and from the moment you're in there and they close the doors and everything, every window you look out, it looks like you're in space. All the rooms look like the rooms in the different space stations and stuff on Star Wars. Everything is designed to where it's like you're on a ship in the whole Star Wars universe, and every employee is an actor that acts like, you know, they're running the ship or this and that. And it's like at that point, who was that marketed for? The diehard Star Wars fans who are going to either spend like their whole life's earnings to go there,
the expense, or I just can't even imagine.
Like I would have loved it, but there's no way I could spend that much money to do something like that. It's ridiculous.
You better be flying me on the freaking Millennium Falcon to get down there.
Yeah,
it better be a plane that looks like the Millennium Falcon.
It's just so
I better get to fight with an actual lightsaber.
Hey, they've actually made a lightsaber.
It's just like a little tape measure. I mean, it looks nice, but you can't do nothing with it. No. Like it's a paper tape measure. It's just,
but still, I ultimately think it's interesting because the Reedy Creek District was originally created specifically. Walt Disney had the special privileges to create a municipality to expand the world of Walt Disney, but it was not to get it was to build up the area around it and make the magical universe that Walt Disney had in mind. It wasn't wasn't to become this huge corporation that could then mandate these certain and influence laws that would affect the very children and their imaginations. I mean, that's the creepiest thing ever. Is it's like you have this huge brand that revolves around your dreams and imagination as kids, and now they want to be predators and prey upon that. And it's like, no, that is where you put an end to it. And we have at least one governor who did.
And that was the whole point of Reedy Creek as Disney, because he wants, again, just like all the actors in the theme park, everybody has to stay in character. He wanted it to be a place, because you can't even get there without, you either have to go across a ferry boat or their tram, like, because it's basically an island. And he wanted it to feel like this completely its own world, its own, like, you get there. That's why he wanted to be able to run his own fire department, like, it wasn't so much a power control thing, is he wanted Disney World to specifically feel like you have left any part of the earth and you're now specifically in this magic Disney kingdom.
Right.
And he wanted to keep that to where when kids go, like that, everyone has to stay in character. Everyone has to. That's why Disney has a dress code, or did. I hear it's not enforced as much anymore. Like, you couldn't wear anything obscene. You couldn't wear things low cut. Like, you couldn't, like, if
It's sad that they don't enforce this anymore. Heaven forbid.
If one of the cast members heard you cussing up a storm, they could escort you out or be like, hey, please stop that. This is for kids. Like, they can hear you. Like, literally, there was a code of conduct when you went to Disney World, because it was to maintain this illusion for children that they were in this magical place. And it's like, there is no more of that moral anymore.
It really is sad. Like, there's a YouTuber that I watch, a gamer guy, and he took his family to Disney World, and he said in the video, he does a video from Disney, and he's like, I didn't want to come here, but my kids love it. I wanted to make their dream come true, so I took them. I don't agree with anything going on here, but he goes through. He has the camera on while he's going through the lines at some of these rides and events and stuff, and the freaking people that work there, like, say, if you step across the line and everybody get in this seat, if for some reason one of us uses the incorrect pronouns, please go ahead and correct us and let us know. We'll try our best to remember. And all this stuff. There's pride stuff everywhere all the time. Like, he was just like, it is the wokest place on earth.
God awful.
And and every night he goes back to his hotel room and just like unwinds and goes off on and talks about everything that he went through that day. And he's like, my two little girls don't know anything about it. They're having the time of their lives, but we're never coming back here again. Like, this is the one-time deal. And he spent like $11,000.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I was gonna say, to go down there and spend a week and try to visit every single kingdom.
Yeah.
I mean,
you do. You have to spend
it's
and
huge
stay a whole
amounts
week.
of money,
Yeah.
and not only that, but it's what I think is crazy to me is, even his little jab there at DeSantis, and we're going to spend $17 billion over the next 10 years, and does he really want us to do? Look, Disney needs Florida more than Florida needs Disney right now.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are growing. They have a mass exodus from all these other leftist blue states like California, like New York. And guess where they're moving? Texas, Tennessee, Florida. And you're seeing an influx of people. You're going to see people come and visit Disney World far more than they're going to go out to the hellhole that is freaking California and visit Disneyland. And I'm sorry, but that alone right there is proof that Disney is going to be far more hurting and needing Florida and DeSantis' Florida than he is California or where else they are. They need the money right now. They're bleeding from it. And so ultimately, look, you go woke, go broke. That's the ultimate message here. And Disney's they've got to straighten up and fly right. And if they don't, I'm with anybody who wants to boycott them, anybody who wants to cancel their subscriptions to Disney Plus, anybody who wants to, in any way, shape, or form, take it to Disney's pocketbook, because that's where it's going to hurt them the most. And let them know that you put your leftist political grooming predator values over children, the innocence of children, then you don't deserve our respect.
Make them eat that sack lunch.
Nope. You don't deserve any of our business. That's right. The House of Mouse is... Look, I can tell you right now, too, there's another company that's primed and ready to take the spot of Disney. And we just saw a huge film released by them, and that's Nintendo. Nintendo is primed and ready. They've already got certain things in the market.
Illumination there.
Teaming up with Illumination, having no ties with Disney, having their own theme parks, and having now a huge movie that will launch their universe.
That could also truthfully be a huge boon to Universal Studios in Florida as well, because they do have, I think, Nintendo World is in Japan, but Super Nintendo World is a part of Universal in Florida because that was part of their decision to do the movie with Universal as well, is because they already partnered with them for the theme park. So I'm like, you know, if Nintendo and Universal could continue working together like that, put in movies in theaters that compete with Disney and then be able to offer themed attractions at Universal's theme parks, you could start driving people to Universal Studios or in Florida versus Disney World. So,
right.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see in the future how this works out, because I think Nintendo is ready to play. The Super Mario's movie was a huge hit, and they're looking at turning so many of their other properties
What I
into
love
films.
about them, too, is that they're calm, cool, and collect. They are calculated about how they're approaching this. They're not rushing into things. Look at how long but look, they've only been on the block for 30 years. Yep. They've only been around, I mean, longer than that. I'm talking about their success with Mario and the launch of the NES and the Famicom back in Japan. But it's like they were around long before then. Game & Watch and everything. Trust me, I know that. But it's like you're looking at a behemoth of a company that has continued to stake its claim in the culture, has continued to stay pure from what it originally was created to do. You have not seen the monumental shift in its identity over the last several years it's existed like you have Disney. And so I'm sorry, but if Disney continues to get politicized and they continue to just get eaten by the woke mind virus, there's plenty of other companies that can grow to the extent that Disney did over the last 100 years. It may be at the end of our lifetime, but Disney's not going to be king forever.
No.
If they continue this. They're not. There's too much at stake here, and I don't think the culture is going to put up with it. But to move on to our final headline of the night.
Yeah.
Sean's been having a little bit of issues with this, so we got to bring it up because it kind of goes into our story time segment. But the broader topic as a whole is that HBO Max
is now just Max.
Now just Max. Yeah. It's in the past. HBO Max doesn't exist. Now Max exists. Exists.
For me right now, it's like Maxi Pad. It's pretty terrible.
I mean, we've all signed in with no problems, which is it's not Sean's fault either. Like literally, it just won't let. Like he's had to contact.
The whole time that I've been on here, obviously I haven't talked very much because I am chatting with these people.
With AT&T.
They can't fix it. They're sending me. I got to call somebody else tomorrow.
You probably have to
call their expert team, but they have assured me that it's a reoccurring issue with other customers too.
So it's not just. I'm in the same boat.
Basically, they're telling me that even though I'm signed up and grandfathered into the whole thing through AT&T, my subscription did not get, and along with other people's subscriptions, have not been transitioned from HBO Max to Max.
So is it an AT&T thing then?
Well,
they didn't do it?
It's weird because I have AT&T internet, same as you, Sean.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I'm getting it.
Well,
I don't have AT&T phone service.
I have it through Miranda and Kyle. I password share. That might end soon. Who knows? But they
got
have
6 months of Ultimate for free.
They have it. I have it free through their AT&T, but theirs isn't their phone service. Theirs is DirecTV because AT&T owns that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're saying that everybody's account was supposed to be transitioned over or migrated over, and that there's some of them that are falling through the cracks. And basically, I still have a subscription to HBO Max,
just not Max,
but it is not working with Max. So when I go to log in to the new Max service, it's telling me your provider login is already being used by another account, which is my HBO Max account. And
that's what's weird.
So it's not my HBO account has not migrated over to Max. So I've got to call them.
The HBO Max app logged in on my phone, and I know you did too. I downloaded the Max app, and as soon as I launched the app and I said start streaming, it immediately opened in my profile.
Oh wow!
Because it's I guess the same thing happened on the PlayStation.
But see, I
had to log in.
I still had to log in through the provider.
I didn't
even with HBO Max being already on my phone.
Mine logged me in automatically on both my PlayStation and on my phone. Automatically used my credentials from the app, which I thought was very convenient.
Because I opened the HBO Max app on my phone. It said download the new Max app. I did that, and then when I got on there, it made me sign in through the provider. Even though I was already signed in on HBO Max, it's still. And granted, it went through. Like I was able to pull up.
Right.
So I mean, mine still worked, but yeah, it did make me go through the provider.
But I know that. So you've done the same thing, and so have I. And even Sean, you said you downloaded.
Like it's just select people.
You downloaded the Max app. And still had HBO Max
This dude's
installed.
had me delete it and clear my
But if they're having you call
Data
more
and
AT&T
reset
people,
my password, everything.
that seems
it's
like it's
still-
on AT&T's end, not.
It's on HBO's end, according to them.
Oh, so are they having you
They
call?
they have
Max's?
a team that has access to my HBO Max account.
Gotcha.
These people don't. They're just strictly AT&T.
Gotcha.
So they're sending. They gave me a
that
phone number
makes
to
sense.
call.
Okay.
It's AT&T people, but they're people who have access to the
Okay.
Max.
Because I
subscription.
know that even when I signed up originally when AT&T owned Warner Brothers and
Yeah.
HBO Max first launched, when I got my internet service and they provided the free HBO Max sign up, you had to use the email tethered to the
Yeah.
AT&T account.
Yeah, yeah.
So I figured, okay,
You still
even though
did
it's
with this, too,
tethered,
yeah.
it's still a separate Max account though that's created
Yeah.
with your AT&T login. So as long as the the email was the same,
Mm-hmm.
I figured, okay, well they're still two separate accounts. So it does make sense that HBO is having the issue with the
No,
migration.
that makes sense to me. I just figure if AT&T is handling the problem,
Yeah.
that sounded like it might have been their end, because I would think they would move you on
well,
to HBO.
I think they're handling
but-
the issue in so much as far as they can get.
Yeah.
And they're not getting any further with Sean in terms of them having to reach out. They're having to say, hey, reach out to HBO.
No, he's saying the people they're sending him to are still AT&T. They just
they're
have
AT&T,
access.
but they're
Yeah.
a team that deals
Oh,
with people's
dedicated
Max
to-
accounts.
Yeah, and I get that. it's just kind of weird how they're handling. And
I mean,
I think that's mostly because you are
technically,
grandfathered in.
if I'm going through AT&T, then the Max account that I'm using, it's AT&T's account.
Yeah.
They're using my login information, but the account would technically belong to AT&T. They're the ones that are connecting me with HBO. So this team is supposed to be
Yeah.
dealing with their accounts with HBO.
Which this, I guess, this whole login issue kind of deals more with our story time
Yeah,
segment, which
But-
we'll dive into
Go-
again.
go for it, yeah.
But I just wanted to talk about how Max apparently it's 8 times more 4K content.
Yeah.
It's going to allow there's going to be 3 tiers, which we've talked about this before when it was originally introduced.
Yeah.
You've got your ad-free tier at $10.90 or $9.99. Your $14.99 tier is the mid
$15.99.
ad-free. Oh, is it $15.99?
Yeah,
$15.99.
Is it $10.99 or $9.99?
No, it's $9.99.
That's weird.
$15.99 and $19. Well, because the $15.99 was the original price, so they just left it alone.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
but it does limit you to 2 streaming.
Yeah,
concurrent
it's
streaming?
2 concurrent streams at 1080p, 30 offload downloads, 5.1 surround quality only.
And then you've got your ultimate tier, which
that
is
one's
the
19,
4K,
yeah.
and that's
Atmos.
$19.99.
It's got Dolby
Dolby
Yeah.
Atmos, HDR10,
4K, UHD. Yeah,
Dolby Vision.
I
Talk about it like Tyrese.
like Tyrese.
Yeah, you was
He's
like
not here
4K.
anymore. 4K UHD resolution.
That was not.
That was
Tyrese.
not Tyrese.
I don't know
He's
what
not,
that was
because he's not here. That was my imitation of him.
That's true.
It's just,
That's
I mean,
true.
he gave us that was him in that review.
That's
what you're
true.
talking about.
You can only imitate him so far. He's not that good.
I'm not that good. No, I mean, it is kind of a double-edged sword as far as because I do agree somewhat I mean, what they had as far as 4K offering was piss poor originally anyways. It was mostly just newer content they released. They didn't really have any of their back catalog in 4K, which always made me mad with HBO Max because there was so much I wanted to see as far as Lord of the Rings, Wizard of Oz. There's certain ones on HBO that I was I would love to watch this in
Harry
4K.
Potter.
But now, so I really do like the fact that now they do have this massive Discovery's we don't know why we're not focused on 4K, so we're going to offer all this 4K. It's great, thank you. But it does kind of stink that even though you didn't really offer much in 4K, you still, whatever did offer in 4K was a part of the $15.99 subscription, and now it's not. Though, for the $5 extra they're offering. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I get it, being aggravated that it's okay, now you're taking what little 4K we did have away from us. But on the plus side, at least now there is going to be a much bigger library of 4K content.
And it's including all the Discovery Plus
Yeah.
from every tier.
Yeah, you get. There's not much of Discovery Plus I care. I don't know if there's anything on Discovery Plus I care about. I'd have to look.
I was
mean,
gonna
there
say,
might
I
be.
honestly have never perused it enough.
I'm sure there's
There may be some,
documentaries
yeah.
or so. There's probably stuff I would now that it's on there, but
But ultimately, I am I do like the fact that they said they were like everybody's going to get to enjoy it for the first 6 months for free.
That I do like.
If you're subscribed already,
Until
you get
it ends.
included into Ultimate for the next 6 months. So basically for the rest of the year.
And then it'll end, and I'll be pissed because I don't want to pay $20 to watch that stuff.
Well,
in 4K.
and okay, so here's the weird thing. I actually think for $20, minus the whole 4K, which I'm fine with the 4K.
Yeah.
I think for $20, the back catalog of what HBO offers, and I think they're going to be more stringent about who they give their rights out to other movies to stream or other services to stream their movies. I think it's a better deal than what Netflix offers for $20, especially when they're about to crack down on password sharing.
Now that's true.
Because here's the thing:
with the
they
password
didn't mention
sharing, I would
anything
agree.
about password sharing crackdown. They just said you get 4 consistent streams.
Yeah.
They
Consecutive
don't
stream,
care
yeah.
where it's at. You get to send it to whoever, and if you've got 4 people that live in all different states that want to stream at the same time, you're paying
For
$20
now,
a month. You
they,
get it.
They might in the future be like, well, we don't want you. Here's the thing. With the password sharing, I would agree because I think that's garbage. But as far as content goes, because at least we know Netflix doesn't ever pull anything, and I don't think HBO or not HBO anymore, it's just Max is going to pull like HBO originals
is
or
a
Warner
dumb
Brothers.
name.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing. It's just Max.
Just Max.
And
I'm
even-
like, but everybody knows HBO.
Yes. And when you get on there, they still have, like, you have your HBO hub. They still have all the same hubs, but now they also have Discovery hubs. And I'm just like, so it's pretty much the same exact thing.
No,
It's
it
just
is.
added Discovery content. Why not just leave it the way it was, but whatever.
Because they added 4K.
I think they're both about, for me, for what it's worth, I think they're an equal deal. I don't think $20 is terrible. It's just I don't want, on top of every other streaming service, it's like I'm not going to pay.
No.
I'm not going
I
to
would
pay Netflix
agree.
20.
No.
I'm not going to pay Disney
I agree
10,
with
them
that.
20.
I don't agree with the fact that I think there's other streaming services. Like, this is where I think Netflix is going to continue to get pigeonholed in a corner.
Yeah.
They've had the upper hand since they were out of the gate and started the streaming initiative. And they grew and they grew and grew, especially with their original content and with third-party movies that are now getting slowly, or they're trickling off the service because you have Peacock. You have Paramount Plus. You've got HBO Max.
And I will give Max that.
I'm still gonna call it freaking
It's
HBO Max.
It's
Yeah,
HBO.
just call it HBO.
Or just call it HBO.
Everybody knows the HBO brand better. I mean, I'm not saying people don't know the Discovery brand, but I mean, it's like
What I think is funny,
when it comes to
wasn't
original
the-
content, HBO is king.
And I don't know if y'all remember this. There was a voice-assisted search feature on Netflix they tried way back. It's
I
like
do remember
2012, 2013.
Yeah, I remember they tried that.
And I believe it was called Max.
Was it?
I want to say the
I remember
assistant
Max
was-
Headroom from was that VH1 MTV? MTV? It
Yeah,
was
it was
MTV.
back in the
wasn't it?
day. I could have swore that. Yes, I want to look this up because I'm dead serious.
No,
think it
I
was
knew they
called
had the
Max.
voice assistant. I just didn't know it's called Max. That's interesting. I will say this. You're mentioning all the other streaming services. Out of every other streaming service that exists, I feel like HBO Max, or now Max, is the only other one apart from Netflix that I think would be worth and could charge $20. Like if Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, or Peacock tomorrow was like, we're raising our prices to $20, I'd be like, see ya, because y'all don't have enough good content to justify that. I mean, I don't have Peacock anyways, but because they don't have any content. But it's like, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, at least I think Max does have enough back catalog. They have all the HBO content, Warner Brothers content, now Discovery, whatever else have you.
It was called Max.
Oh, was it? There
Launches
you go.
Max,
Ask
a
Max or
goofy
something like
virtual
that.
assistant to
Well,
help with
now
selections.
he's dead and HBO is taking over. But yeah, I really do think out of every streaming service, Max is the only other one that could charge $20 and be, to me, reasonable.
That's what I
because,
think is
none of
interesting.
the others, like I said, I would cancel Paramount, Peacock, or if Disney upped any, like, if
Yeah,
they were
Disney's
$15, I
really-
wouldn't want to pay it anymore.
I'd say the
because-
only reason they somewhat even have, and honestly at this point, when it comes to Star Wars, it's like, okay, I'll just buy all those.
or just-
Even Marvel
have
to
to
a
buy
degree.
anything.
I'll buy the
I mean,
Infinity
there's-
Saga.
There's thing,
Yeah, I'm not advocating that.
I
But I am saying there's still plenty of
Disney.
older.
Don't pay for it.
There's older classic content that I watch on
Yeah.
Disney Plus, and like I said, I pay for me and my entire family.
Mm-hmm.
They watch the back catalog. I know they're not watching the new stuff because they're not interested
Mm-hmm.
in it. And to me, it's like at the end of the day, if only one of us is paying and I share it amongst them, ultimately the way I still see that I'm sticking it to Disney
Yeah.
is they're getting the data. They know what people are watching. They're the ones that have to live with pushing out crap that nobody's watching. If they want to waste money in that regard, by all means do it. That's more money out of their pocket.
If tomorrow Disney came out and said we're raising our price to $20 a month,
oh hell no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Nope.
Max is the only
No,
other.
that's why
the
I
only
said.
other one I think.
I said,
yeah.
I'm willing to pay it now.
Yeah.
But if it got to that point, I would buy the things on there that
Yeah.
I stream consistently, whether that's Star Wars, Marvel, the Marvel that I like, and even the
I already
classics
own
that
the
it comes
entire
down to.
Infinity Saga on disc, so I'm not worried about that. I've not bought a single Marvel movie since then, but I mean, I do have all of the Infinity Saga, most of them on 4K, not all of them.
I
but
bought the Eternals.
No.
Well, technically, I didn't. Well,
Why?
I did,
Why
but I
did you
didn't
buy
know
it?
That
that.
one was like,
I'm trying to tell the damn story,
Yeah,
but you
go
won't
ahead.
shut up.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. I didn't buy it knowingly. We had that Disney thing where you get them in the mail, and it was just like, hey, if you don't opt out of this movie, we automatically send it to you. And my wife didn't opt out of that movie.
Oh no.
And so it
got
just
it.
got sent to
I
us.
have a funny story about that too, but I'll say that. In hindsight, though, looking at some of the movies that have come out since Eternals was very bland and boring, but I honestly don't think it's been the worst, because while it was bland and boring, that was all that was wrong with it. It was just milquetoast and dumb.
No,
I would
it was
argue
bad.
no. Thor Love and Thunder.
It was
no,
worse.
Thor Love and Thunder is way worse than Eternals.
I think I had this written down in my
It's 'cause
notes.
it's just
I ranked
stupid.
them.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. honestly, at this point, Ant-Man Quantumania
Thor
was
Love and
God.
Thunder
Actually, no,
was at
that
least
one
funny.
that one might be the worst. I
Um,
don't know. I think I like Quantumania better than Thor Love and Thunder.
Okay, no. I had no. This is the way I had them ranked.
It's hard to rank.
And this is
stupid.
not including Guardians recently. I don't include Guardians because I didn't like that either.
Yeah, I know, but still.
No Way Home was one. Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Wakanda Forever, Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder, Quantumania, and Eternals. I did put Eternals at the bottom. It was god awful. I have no desire to revisit that. I don't have any desire to revisit any of those
now I'm
others,
thinking about
but
the dumbass celestial sticking up out of the earth, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. They still haven't even explained what that is.
I just
or
yeah,
not.
no.
They explained what it is. They just don't. Nobody else has addressed
Right.
the fact that this giant thing is now poking up out of the earth. I don't know. Anyways, no. The thing I was talking about with the Disney subscription, I actually had to change my debit card for I forget whatever reason, but it's no longer the same like number and pin and everything on file.
Yeah.
And I never updated it on that because I was a part of the Disney Movie Club too.
Yeah.
So they keep sending me emails and letters saying, we were going to send you this movie, but we can't charge you for it. And it's been over a year, and they still keep sending it. And I'm like, at some point I would think you would just cancel my membership because you keep saying, oh, we'll send you this movie as soon as you update your payment. And I've never reached out to tell them I'm not updating my payment. I need to call them and be like, just cancel all of them. Because I'm definitely not paying like over $200 or however much. It's probably like $300 or $400 at this point for all these movies.
Hell
Yeah.
Wait. They keep racking it up?
They have it on there like, we will send you these movies that are part of your club membership
Right.
as soon as you update your payment info. And I'm like, it's been over a year, guys. I'm not coming back. Like, I need to just cancel it outright,
Yeah.
tell them I don't want it, but I keep forgetting to, because I mean, they don't have them, they can't charge me, and they don't send me the product. It's not like they mail it to me and they're like,
Right.
give me your money. It's like, we're not sending you this until you pay. And I'm like,
That's
I
fine.
don't want it.
I don't
You don't want it. Yeah.
You've not released anything that's worthwhile.
I do need to call them at
No,
some
with
point.
mine, it was literally they send them if you don't opt out.
Yeah.
and,
They
and,
do- they
and it
always
charges
do,
you
yeah.
for
Here's
it.
the weird thing. Okay, so
You have to
yeah.
opt out, or else they
you
will
get like
send
an
it and charge
email
you.
or you get something in the mail that says like next month's movie is going to be this.
Yeah.
And you can say like I don't want that, but
Is
in
it
order
still
to keep,
cheaper to
No.
subscribe?
no, well,
It is up front.
up front, yeah, because you get a bunch of movies.
For like $10, I think. You get like 5 movies.
Yeah, you get
for-
5 movies when you sign up, but then on top of that, like you do get discounts on movies that are in their catalog, but the new movies when they come out, they're like $30
Yeah.
for a 4K
They
Blu-ray.
charge
you
you
can
the
get
full
them cheaper on
ESRP,
Amazon.
Oh
but
no! So you paid for Eternals too.
yeah,
I mean,
Probably
not,
pay
not
30 if it's the,
intentionally. but,
if it's the 4K UHD, it was probably
Yeah.
like what, $35?
it was. I think it was $29.99. But
That's
still,
not-
it's like you have to do at least. It's either 3 or 5 movies a year in order to keep your subscription.
Yeah.
So I think like out of the newest Marvel movies, Eternals came. I didn't want that. I did get No Way Home, and I did buy Shang-Chi. And then we opted out of Thor and some other ones, but
You didn't want to watch that with the kids so that you
Negative.
could hear Zeus talk about orgies?
nope.
That's Brandon's favorite scene.
Oh, gosh, that movie just abysmal.
He was hung up on those orgies for a long time.
He was. That's
talking
all.
about you.
No, that's all freaking Russell Crowe talked
That's
about.
right. It's like, Daddy, what's an orgy?
It's like, gosh sakes, that the whole
a
joke of the
fruit.
punchline. It was terrible.
It's a new kind of fruit.
I'm not
orangey.
It's like an orange,
I'm
but
not
it's
defending the movie at all, but to be fair, like Zeus was
A banana
horn,
slips
in
in.
Greek mythology. Zeus was a horn dog. He had kids with all.
He
all
was
kind-
ornery, yeah.
but he had kids with everybody. But
this isn't God of War.
Well, that's the thing. The way
This is Thor.
The way you try to make a joke out of that can be
Yeah.
a lot better done than the way they did it.
And
in Thor: Love
even
and
one
Thunder.
punchline was fine. It would have been distasteful, but it would have been okay. They kept bringing it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just awful writing. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's god awful. But anyways, HBO Max is now Max. Go download it, subscribe. Hey, you get 6 months for free. Decide if you
I'm gonna
like
watch.
I'm not even getting that right now.
Well, we're going
don't
to
get
talk about that
nothing.
in our story
before
time.
the 6 months is up, because because they did add it to HBO Max. It was one of the rare things they had in 4K. I will rewatch Game of Thrones in 4K.
Oh, yeah.
I did watch all of that.
Because I want to
in
make sure I
4K.
do that before and
Wait. I think the first they've always had that in 4K on there, right?
Yeah, it's been
not
months.
always, but when they released House of the Dragon, they added
Shoot. I
Yeah.
freaking watched. Man, I gotta
Yeah.
go back and watch Game of Thrones again.
Yeah.
I
'Cause I
rewatched
watched
it all
in
in
regular
4K. It's
1080.
I
beautiful.
think they added it right after you watched it. It was
freaking
funny.
beautiful.
But
Yeah.
I do want to see that.
It's
It's
worth
4K
revisiting.
HDR, so I'm definitely going to rewatch that with the membership.
House of the Dragon, man. That was
I
in
know.
4K.
I don't know. Some
Yeah.
of the others, like, because I own all of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, so I don't have to worry about that now. And I do own the Dark Knight trilogy in 4K UHD, so I don't really have to worry about that. But I mean, there's a few things. I'm sure there's older things on there I'll see and be like,
Yep.
oh, that'll look great in the 4K.
Well, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out if that's in 4K.
Alrighty, guys, let's move into our story time.
Yeah.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
Story time.
I know nobody really
It's not
knows who he is, but did y'all didn't mention Ray Stevenson dying? Did you?
I do have a headline for him,
There-
but we didn't mention.
Well, I mean, we don't have to get into it, but Ray Stevenson
So,
died.
I would say, I would think some people
58
know
years
because
old.
he
story
is-
time.
He was the bad Punisher.
Yeah, well,
A
he's
lot of people loved him. He
That
had
was-
mad
yeah.
respect
It's a
from
terrible
fans.
No, the,
Punisher movie.
Yeah, Punisher Warzone has a huge cult following, like Zack Snyder. So it may not be good, but it does.
Yeah.
I would say he was a great character actor. You either knew him or you didn't, based
Yeah.
on because he was in
He was in
I knew
Thor,
him
wasn't
from
Freaking Triple R. He was the bad guy in
He
Triple
was
R.
the bad guy in
right.
Triple
Yeah.
R, but he also does voice work, and I knew him from the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels animated series because he plays a major villain in those, and he does do phenomenal voice work. So,
Yeah. It's sad passing at 58, really young. I
Yeah.
mean, a myriad of work. I mean, I was looking over the article. We'll have it linked down below of just the litany of things he's been
he
in.
was definitely
He was a strong,
a character actor,
consistent
yeah.
character actor, just constantly at work.
I
Seemed
know,
well
he
liked and
wasn't-
beloved.
He was nobody basically in the MCU, but Volstagg, who is a cool character in the
Yeah,
comics, they
Thor.
just didn't do anything with him in the MCU.
But he's in the movie.
He's in the
Yeah.
first three. He's
Yeah.
the one with the long red
Beard,
beard
like,
and
yeah.
They
One of Thor's
just-
compatriots.
yeah, like I said, those characters are cool in the comics. They just didn't do anything with them in the movies.
But didn't they do something with the woman? Didn't
They
she
did
have,
a
like,
little bit. They
bigger-
did
bigger
Sif.
role.
They did in the first.
Yeah.
Lady Sif had in the first movie, and then
she
they brought
ends
her
up
back.
dying
Yeah.
in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
No, she did.
Or no, not
she got her
Love and
arm.
Thunder.
She got her arm cut off, but she. I
That's-
think
She
didn't
lived.
die? Oh,
yeah, I don't
okay.
think she. Yeah,
I can't remember.
I don't.
I don't
I was gonna
remember.
say.
Yeah.
I thought the God Butcher killed her too.
Who knows? Probably.
Butchered the movie.
Or I was
Yeah.
thinking, no, what was the
Now I never
Wait,
watched
was it Love and Thunder, or was that the recent one?
Yeah, that was the
Yes.
recent
What
one.
was the one before that?
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
She wasn't in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
She wasn't in that.
She was
one.
in the first two in Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
she
Okay,
wasn't
all
in
right,
Ragnarok.
all right.
I have never seen it, but I did want to check it out. But he also played Blackbeard in Black Sails because I've heard that's a decent series.
Okay.
So
Ray Stevenson.
I didn't know that was him. I've seen some
Oh,
of
you've
Black
seen
Sails.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It ain't bad.
But definitely a sad passing. I didn't see if they mentioned, was it an illness that he was struggling with, or
The
was it?
vaccine. I'm just kidding.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I just know that
It was I think it was 4 days before his 59th birthday, which is also sad. Yeah,
Jeez.
so close.
is that an HBO? I might watch. No, it's Stars. I was gonna be like, I might check that out on HBO Max if it's on. I like. Okay, I never knew this until recently, and it made me want to check it out even more. It's a prequel to Treasure Island, and I never realized because I love
that's cool.
because I love the Treasure Island novel, and I've seen different iterations of movies and stuff for that. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was
Another
the
decent
dad-
animated flick
the
from Disney.
Dad from Lost in Space or whatever is in that show. Like
Oh,
the
okay.
the new Lost in Space. I can't think of the guy's name.
Bill Pullman.
No. That would be awesome. Bill
Is he-
Pullman
I just
was
want
in
him to
Lost
make
in
I don't know.
comeback.
Is it Toby Stevens? Is that him? Did he play Captain Flint?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay,
That's him.
Okay,
Wait,
so is he the main character? Because Captain
I think
Flint,
he's the main
I was saying in
character,
Treasure
yeah.
Island, Captain Flint is the one that went
Yeah.
to get the treasure that Long John Silver betrayed or whatever. So I was just curious. Yeah, that's one of my favorite classic novels.
I was checking to make sure that Bill Pullman wasn't dead.
John Silver.
I couldn't remember if he was dead or not.
I think he's still alive.
He is. He's still alive.
Who is Luke Arnold?
Well, let's talk about story time.
Interesting. Yeah.
Story time.
Passwords.
Those times that you've had login issues. This came up right at the beginning of the show.
Very fitting.
No,
Yeah.
I actually think it's funny because
I've
other
had
than
some.
well, I was gonna say other than just instances where apps don't work right or your account is screwed up.
Yeah.
My issue is constantly when it's either switching a phone or even not switching a phone but doing an update, and certain app providers, like your major ones, never have this issue. Facebook, Twitter, all your social media accounts, they never log out. The PlayStation app logs out
Yes.
constantly.
Oh, yeah, I
and I
know
have
that.
no idea why. And then when I log in, and then it's immediately like, "What's your primary console?" And it already has the correct one selected. But I'm like, why is this like a new app experience every time?
Well, sometimes it'll even ask you, like, do you want to trust this device so that we don't have to show you this again?
Right.
And you can check it and log
doesn't
in.
matter.
And
And
nope,
then, yeah.
you check it every time.
They even did two-factor
The ones-
authentication this time. So I'm like, okay, now, like I'm authenticating it. So I'm saying I want to stay logged in.
The ones that get me, because I've had this issue. I told you I didn't have a story, but I did think of one. I
knew it would happen.
Well, because it actually happened to me the other day, and it just occurred to me is something that maybe an app that I've not used in a long time, like you said, so it gets offloaded, and then you re-download it, and you have to log back in, and it's been so long that like I actually didn't remember my password. I think it was the Zaxby's app. I was just going to order some food on the app and go pick it up. And the last time I used the Zaxby app was when I worked for Bob Evans. So
my gosh.
yeah, long
It's
time,
been a while.
long time. So I download this thing and I didn't remember my password. I'm going through some old ones. And I'm like, man, that's fine. We'll just reset it. And it didn't have like to my phone yet. Like the only thing it had was email. And it's like, we'll send you this code in the email.
It's your Bob Evans email, isn't it?
No, it was my actual email, but it was one of those times where like most of the time it comes right away. It didn't come for like an hour, and at that point I had already gotten food, and I'm like, because I kept sitting, I kept refreshing, I
Yep.
kept doing whatever. I had them resend if it doesn't send in this amount of time, resend the code.
Right.
I did that, and then sure enough, like an hour later, I get 2 emails with the codes. I'm like, well, it's done now. Like, good lord, like, am I supposed to wait that long?
Like, how
Like,
are your servers that
Yeah,
slow?
it ticked
that it
me
took
off.
an hour.
And I mean, it's not like when big companies like, and this, not that Zaxby's is a small company, but places like Sony or whatever, I've never had that issue with.
Yeah.
But some places like Zaxby's or other smaller chains or whatever, when you get on their app. And,
Municipalities are awful.
I bet, yeah.
Because what kills me is that whether it's LG&E or like Louisville Water, it's like all these other places, and they'll pride themselves of like 128-bit encryption. I'm like, thank God, because I know y'all don't have much security over there.
yeah.
Because it's like, I know if I try to call, nobody's going to answer.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you go in there and it's like, input a password. You try to input a password, and they're like, we don't use these special characters. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, so every other million
Yeah.
websites out there uses these, but your website.
Yeah.
So now I have to go in and create a separate login with a similar
Mm-hmm.
password to all my other 50, and then I have to change one character that I'm never going to remember. So I have to write it down somewhere to make sure that I remember that
I hate
one
that.
time I use one
I'm
character
kind of the
in this one
opposite
specific
way.
case.
Most of the ones I have you don't require a special character, just the capital letters and the number. But then now, like, they are starting to all kind of go towards the special character. So there's a few now that are like, we require, exclamation point or an asterisk. So now I'm trying to go back and like update them all to be that one.
Yeah.
But then you have the ones that don't take the special characters yet that I'm just like, I wish there would just be like
Well, they do, but yeah, like he said, it's one of these 5 special characters.
That only,
and of course, an exclamation mark or an @ symbol or whatever is not
stupid.
that's not on there.
Let me make whatever password I want.
Yeah.
It's like, let me make whatever password I want, and if you don't think it's strong enough, too bad. If I get hacked, that's on me.
It's like or colon, I pick a Bible verse. That way I can put a colon
there
in
you
there.
go. That'll work. Another one that I can't stand is, and Apple does it. I think there's a way to turn it off. I just haven't dug into it, but it's getting to the point where I'm about annoyed and I'm fed up
Apple
with it.
doesn't work anymore.
When I go to create a new account on a website, it immediately populates with its own generated password.
Self-generated,
and the first box is not change. It's use this strong password. And I'm like, no, I don't want to use that.
You got to go down under it to the other methods or whatever. Yeah.
And it's like, make the most prominent freaking choice that choose your own password.
Yeah.
Don't stick me with accidentally hitting this quick enough
that you're
that
never
I use your
remember
ridiculous password that I'm never going to be able to change.
You'll only be able to use it on your Apple device.
Right.
Because you can't use it in any other.
And then, store it in keychain. And then you'll never have to use it anywhere else because we've got it memorized there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Never mind if I ever want to go through and change it for sometime down
Or
the road.
if you want to log in on a browser that's not on your Apple device, you're screwed.
I had a friend I had to cause her all kinds of problems because the keychain got out of sync and everything, and I had to reset everything, but that basically meant she had to start over fresh because it's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do because that's the way Apple's set up. We can reset your password and all of this, but all of the passwords and everything you had are going to be lost because you're going to have to start a whole new keychain because it won't let you reset and resync that. And I'm like, Apple's just.
I was trying to switch to Android. I was going to make that move, and the biggest factor that went into me not deciding to move to Android was all of my saved passwords because Apple has this huge drawn out rigmarole of a process
to
transfer passwords over because you can't export Apple keychain.
Like CSV or something right
there. Yeah. And you can, but you can only do it from an Apple computer. So and you have to be logged into your account on a Mac. And I was like, I would have to go to Brandon or Keith and log into my account and create an account on their Mac, and then go to my keychain and export it as this. And then any of the generated passwords that Apple has generated, they will not export, period.
Right.
So only the passwords that I made up would even export. And I was like, dude, I'm not going through all of that.
And not only
is
that a hassle, back to even your friend Keith, exactly. It's like the fact that you have to then think, oh crap,
Apple screwed them over.
Not only screwed them over, but it's like now I got to remember passwords that probably weren't even in the keychain, but it's going to wipe clearly from the phone entirely. Or I've had that issue with web browsers before. Like, oh, I've got to delete my data, and now it's like I've got to put in my password to 50 different websites and save it there. And then even with the FaceTime, it's like. Or Face ID. I've gotten used to there being certain websites when it is saved in keychain. It's convenient when I can just look at the phone and it automatically logs me in. But then that also inhibits me from remembering the password so that if I ever do get logged out or if it ever gets changed in one set of keys and not the other, then all of a sudden I'm screwed because I'm like, I don't remember this password.
Like, she was really frustrated. She's like, I've never had a problem like this with Apple. And I was like, yeah, used to, you didn't. But it's just becoming more and more common. And it's, I mean...
My biggest issue is when I transitioned from my iMac that is so ancient that it stopped taking updates.
Yeah.
And so when it stopped updating, the keychain for some reason stopped syncing, and iCloud started having a lot of sync issues with the old versions.
Once they changed it from keychain to passwords, it no longer syncs.
I have that problem with my iPad and my MacBook because they no longer get updates anymore. And the iPad's not as bad, but there's times when it doesn't sync. Like, you know how you could save tabs on Safari in your phone, and you could do that, and like you can open it up
on your iPad.
And I love that because I have a couple tab groups. Like I have a Elden Ring tab group. I have a Zelda tab group.
You got sophisticated with it. I never do. I close out all my tabs
that way I can keep all, because Elden Ring doesn't have where you can keep track of your quest and stuff in the game. Well, yeah, it's part of the, like, literally you talk to a person, like they don't have like. You just explore the game and you accomplish the quest.
No.
So I keep them in the...
you just gave me another reason not to play that game.
I love Elden Ring. It's so great.
I hate it.
But yeah.
I would throw my controller and break it.
So I have like all my quest lines saved in tabs on there so I can keep track of what I'm doing. And it's like I'll pop open my iPad and it won't sync right. And then the worst part is the phone will sync to the iPad,
Yes,
so that it'll
and then
delete the
clear
tabs
out your tabs.
And I'm like, you son of a why would you do that?
iCloud is absolutely abysmal. iCloud Notes is god awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you log into a web browser version, there is no guarantee, and the exact same thing will
Yeah.
happen. I
It'll
have
sync to the
changed
one,
our
yeah.
podcast synopsis and put the links with everything on there and updated it.
I didn't
and I
get-
will log out, and then I will go to my phone, and it will update because it saw me log in on the computer, but it updates to a clean slate.
Oh, wow.
And then when I go back to the web browser to be like, no, I just updated it, log in,
It syncs to
it's
the phone?
updated to the phone,
Yeah.
and now I have nothing. So
Yeah.
I have to redo everything.
That ticks me off more than anything. Is that
It
it'll
is infuriating.
It should always sync
To the latest
to
timestamp.
the and it'll go, oh well now we're going to sync to this one that you weren't using that has nothing on it, and just you lost everything. And I'm like,
No, it's absolutely infuriating. And I've
make your
only
crap
I've
work.
only had the issue with the web browser version of iCloud.
yeah,
iCloud is absolutely and what it does not make sense is I've used Dropbox, I've used other cloud syncing, and I'm like, Apple has never gotten it right, ever. I don't. Google has. They have ways to. 5 people can be in editing
Yeah.
a Google Doc.
Yeah.
Microsoft can do it in 365. We do it at work all the time. And I'm sitting here, I'm like,
Steve Jobs would be
there is
pissed. He would be
absolutely
pissed.
no reason for
be like,
Apple
"This
to be
just
this far
doesn't
behind.
work."
I mean,
No.
to say that
Well, I
that
remember.
Microsoft has better cloud syncing than Apple, Steve Jobs would go punch somebody.
Well, here's
Jobs
the thing.
would go punch
Heads rolled
somebody.
when Mobile Me was god awful.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he fired him before they brought out iCloud, and everybody thought, "Oh, great! Now iWeb and all these other apps are gonna
Yep.
they're gonna get way better."
Yeah.
No, he
No, they
kicked the
got
can
canned
down the road.
Yeah,
yeah. And
iWeb
then
doesn't exist anymore.
Then he got canned,
Yeah,
and it's like, no, iWeb just became Wix, and Wix outgrew it.
Yeah.
And became more robust. And it's like, I just think it's crazy because I'm like, so many missed opportunities. The fact that they even try to still integrate it into their workflow, and I'm like, it's just garbage.
Feel
we
like-
kind of went on to bashing Apple and their
Yeah.
system, but
Well, I already told my story.
with login stuff. Just real quick, because I know
Yeah.
we're at 10:30. But what about a login that's been stolen? Have you ever been hacked to where you couldn't log in because somebody? Because
I
had
have.
that. I had that
Yeah.
happen with my PlayStation account.
Really?
Yeah, like a couple years ago. You all.
when
I
they
guess you don't
I
remember it,
remember
but-
when they had the huge,
Yeah,
server-
somebody got into.
Oh,
yeah,
crap.
somebody
I didn't
got
know-
my PlayStation account,
Okay.
and I had to have it. I had to call PlayStation and have them actually
I didn't.
lock it
I didn't know
and
that.
restart my stuff.
Dang,
yeah.
that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Did it wipe all your trophies and everything?
No. They were able to recover it. Somebody just changed my email address and password.
Okay, I gotcha.
So
I
they
had
were able to.
somebody in
recover it.
Thailand, which they may not have been Thailand. They probably had a VPN, but they were buying like stuff on Amazon. Like they somehow got my Amazon information.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and that sucked because not only did I have to contact Amazon and get that changed and everything, but I also had to call my
your
bank,
bank, yeah.
because they spent like. It was funny because I could see. I didn't catch they spent $1,000 in one go, and that's when I caught it. But they had you
Whoa.
could see where there was like a $20 transaction, then like a $100 transaction, and then like 1,000. Like it's
Yeah,
kind
they
of like
were
they
testing
tested
the
it.
waters, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they were and I was just like, what the? And I had to contact Amazon, had all that reset. I had to contact the bank and get a new debit card. That may have been when I lost my Disney the Disney Club
get the
stuff.
new card number, yep.
It probably was, and Disney's never gotten a penny from me since. So good for them.
It was Disney.
Wow.
They were stealing it.
But yeah,
we
it
know
was
he
just funny
wants these movies.
because-
Let's just take the 1,000 now.
Because when you looked on the bank statements, it was saying the transactions were coming through Thailand, but it was Amazon purchases, and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they always say if anybody gets your card information or any of your bank, they'll always do a small transaction first.
Yeah. Yep.
A couple of them to see if you notice.
Yeah.
To see if there's money in there, and it's like if a $3 thing pops up on my phone and says $3 was charged here, the first thing I'm going to think is one of my apps that I
Yeah.
subscribe to updated,
Yep.
or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to think of it of $3 or
It's weird
$4.
'cause I go through periods and bouts, but I periodically am pretty decent about checking the ledger and just making sure.
no, I always check because the $100
Right.
purchase and the $1,000 purchase.
Oh, that-
were in-
yeah.
Yeah,
they were
red flags.
They were in the same day.
But no,
so,
thankfully,
yeah.
I've never had it happen. I've never been, knock on wood, I've never been hacked
Yeah.
to that extent.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of instances where I can't remember a specific instance, but I've probably had my like password changed before, and I've been able to do like a backwards way of getting it unlocked. I've definitely had my account locked from my own input of wrong passwords, and where it locks you out for like 30 minutes, and that has pissed me off because there have been times where it was my own fault, and it was one of those like, oh, wrong special character. I'm stupid. I input it wrong. And then I go and finally put it in correctly. And they're like, too many attempts. You're out for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was something stupid that I just wanted to check the account. Like, I think one was my AAA account. And I was like, I just want to see when my renewal date is. That's it. And I couldn't even do that because I couldn't log in for 30 minutes.
Though, is, okay, you enter in all these wrong ones. You would think on the very last wrong one, they would say, well, now your account's locked. They wait until, because I've had that happen too. And
they do it for security purposes.
And then you put in the correct password, and then it tells you, oh, no, now your account's locked. It's like, okay, why'd you wait until give you the correct password to be like, you would think at that point you would just accept it.
Yeah.
Or you would have told me beforehand your account's already locked because you entered incorrectly so many times.
I've noticed now, and they're always updating security features, but the latest one is it used to be that when you would go to a login page, it would have your email and your password line. And iCloud was one of the first ones I noticed started doing this. They now have it to where you have to input your email, hit enter, then the password box shows up, and you have to input the password. Because I think a lot of people were spoofing it and just they were just brute forcing
because now you can
and doing email passwords immediately, whereas now you have to authenticate one before it can authenticate.
Because people are spoofing and hacking through even the captchas and stuff now that, those are, make sure you're not an AI. And it's like, now they found ways around
AI
around that.
knows what a stoplight looks like.
Yeah. Talk about another login issue that I can't stand is the stupid captchas. They got the damn corner of a freaking fire.
I was saying, I hated the captions, but now they do the images. But even the images, they're just like, it's like, this little corner of this.
It's like,
motorcycle.
the handrail on the bike is still there.
It's always a stop sign or a red light on mine.
Here's the thing. I always click it thinking, well, technically that is true, and they always let me through.
I hate the ones
I'm like, well, I guess I didn't get it wrong.
Click all buses, and you're like, I'm like, okay, but is this a bus or a van?
Yeah,
like, I know
that's a shuttle. That's not the same thing.
And then you get it wrong, and I'm like, well, I don't know what you want. It's like, gosh.
That little corner of the fire hydrant sticking up right there.
It can be too. It can be just the tiniest little bit of red or whatever on there, and it's like,
I'm like, this is stupid.
The other ones I hate are when you're clicking on them, and then like as you click on it, the square changes to something new, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? It says,
what's going on?
It says clicking. It says keep clicking every fire hydrant until they all disappear because you do a new square, and then finally when there's no more
like an
in
endless
there,
supply of fire hydrants.
I'm like, I just want this. I don't want a freaking mini game when I'm trying to log in.
Yes,
it's like give me freaking Snake if that's gonna be the case.
Or the ones that don't have any. It's like click every mountain you see. If there are no mountains, click continue. And I'm like, I don't like this either because I feel like it's a trick question. It's like
is there a mountain or is that a hill?
Yeah.
But then it's funny because I'm like, give me the first level of Super Mario World, and I guarantee you most people will fail that and they'll give up, and then they won't be able to get in.
I can get through that easy. That's fine.
Yeah,
said most people
do that blind.
Alrighty, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the love and support. Again, as always, like, share, subscribe. All of our social media accounts right there at the bottom of the screen. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube.
Search
for us on Rumble, too. We're on there.
Rumble,
all of our content ends up on there as
well.
Tweeters.
We like the tweeters.
We tweet all the time.
Tweet.
We didn't do it last week, so we got to do it this week, Keith. Do us the honors.
Alrighty. You're talking about that old-fashioned electronic mail?
I sure am.
Okay. If you want to go that route, RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
See, I missed it. I needed a week off.
Yeah,
I needed a week from not hearing
it.
Yeah,
just even
I'm just amazed by Keith's curls, his beautiful curls.
Look at those locks.
Look at this one coming out of his headphone right there.
Yeah.
That's the pretty one.
Look at it.
No, not that one.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
That one.
Is there any gray ones?
Beautiful.
I've noticed a few gray strands and in my beard. So
they're
not in my beard now. I trimmed it. So
you got to use just for men.
If depending on how it looks, I'll leave it. I'm okay with the gray streaks.
I can't tell if it's the light, but it looks like.
Well, they could have changed that. They could have changed that to like just for they.
Ooh,
just for them.
Just for them.
It's probably coming. I bet they have it.
Yeah.
And it'll be in rainbow colors and everything.
Blue hair fairies.
Probably dropping next month. I mean, we're Pride Month's here. Let's get to it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Vanilla Steam.
Woo! There it is. And
Mustard love.
I love it. I
What
love
did we
it.
name you during? I don't remember now.
Cold brew.
Cold brew.
Cold brew.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.